let's not throw failure on this. Like, it's creative, it's exploration, it's discovery. We have to stay in that space, not in let's make this perfect. Because also, there is no perfect.
No.
Not in a subjective art form.
What a painful thing to subject yourself to.
Hello, listeners and watchers, if you're watching, listening. We're all growing up, okay? You're here with me. Today on the pod, I have a very special friend and guest. We've known each other for quite some time through mutual friends in LA. Just, I don't know, we're all creatives out here. Everybody knows everybody. But this year, we got the chance to collaborate creatively for the first time on a project that has maybe been the most fulfilling creative project I've ever done in my life, where the vision of what I wanted it to be, it became that fully without like sacrificing anything. And a lot of that had to do with this guy right here. I'm talking about my new music project called Good Vlly, spelled Goodvlly. Today on the pod is my co-producer and friend and incredible musician and person, Jordan Sherman.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Jordan.
What's happening, dude?
Hey, man. Nice to see you.
So formal.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's fun. It's we just had like a 15-minute pod in the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And now I'm here doing the real thing. And I'm like, oh, a nice intro?
Yeah.
It's lovely. I love it.
Yeah, I got to be a little more formal on here. But basically, anytime you and I sit and talk, it's like a podcast.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because I feel like that's how it is with like all my creative friends. Is like we sit down and we just kind of start rapping about the universe and our creativity and our place in it and what the fuck we're doing with our lives. And then, an hour goes by and it's like, cool, man, I got to go. See ya.
Time to, we should probably start making music now. Yeah.
So great to see you, man.
You too, man.
Thanks for coming on and thanks for being a part of Good Vlly.
It's been super fucking fun.
Yeah.
It's like you said, like you had a vision for it, and a lot of artists struggle with vision for their projects. Like they had this grandiose idea and they have influences and they have a bunch of things that they want to get to, but it's rare that it's like actually clear. So like sometimes I'm experimenting with people or sometimes I just kind of like steer the ship or whatever.
Sure.
This was like, oh no, this is it. When you first started sending me demos, I'm like, oh, that's it. I just need to make it a little bit better, but it was like super fun and just like hanging out with you as if we're at a bar,
Yeah.
like talking shit and like giggling. A lot of
giggles through this record. A lot of just laughing.
For how serious and sexy the music is.
Yeah.
Our vibe was not serious at all.
No.
Just pure joy and fun.
Well, we had to balance the sexiness with silliness. Otherwise.
Especially two dudes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It'd be too steamy in there if we didn't joke around.
And we did it all at my old place too, in the apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were up close and personal.
Steamy.
Yeah.
Offset it with some nice giggles. Yeah.
Yeah, man. This was a weird one for me. Like, I had made music for so long, and I think I was more in that place that you just described, where like I could feel the potential of what I was making musically, and I did have some ideas of vision for it, but I never came into it as clear as this one. But even this one, you helped me with the clarity. So this project, for the listeners at home, I made singer-songwriter music for 15 years. Guitar, acoustic, every song I wrote on the guitar, all that stuff's out there. I love those songs. This project came out of 2 years ago. I just got real bored of the acoustic guitar. I stopped wanting to be guy on a guitar. I had just done it for so long that like I was bored. And it's not the music I actually listen to. Like more often than not, I'm listening to James Blake, Bon Iver, Son, Jordan Rakei. Like I'm listening to more sounds than like singer-songwriter guy. And so Good Vlly came out of me just going like, I'm bored of this. How do I make music that I'm not bored by? And then the vision started to form of like this kind of indie electronic, sexy, not using my name thing.
The beauty of the moniker, right?
Yes.
It's so nice to separate yourself from the art a little bit.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to get wrapped up as like, this is your fucking identity. It's like,
yes.
And then if that's what you're presenting to the world, then, it's got to be so close to the way people already perceive me.
Yes.
And that's tough because it's like, so you're limiting yourself and you're keeping all this potentiality off the deck. And then to have like one singular vision is the hard part. Cause like, especially me, I play every instrument.
Yeah.
I can sing, do all this shit.
Yeah.
Picking a thing is so hard. It's like, I love soul music. I love pop music. I love dark, weird R&B shit. Like, and it goes on and on. So like, what does that mean for me as an artist? Which is why I actually have transitioned more into being a facilitator and a producer.
Yeah.
Because I can do so many things, but I shouldn't for myself, right?
Right. You shouldn't have one project that's spread out over all these ideas.
So that's the beauty of working with so many different people is I get to like actually do it all. And it doesn't suffer and make some weird schizophrenic project that makes no sense, you know?
Right. And even Good Valley, man, like I feel like it does cover like a wide variety of genre, but it's focused.
Yeah. Well, sonically, it's all in a particular space.
Exactly.
But we made sure to go different tempos, different, like, just different feels. And
exactly.
Like, some are a little more out there, some are a little more accessible, you know,
exactly.
but it's an easy listen straight through, though.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Jordan Sherman. I love that man. Another thing I love is high quality products, okay? I like when a company comes in and says, we're going to do this better. That's why I'm so grateful to our sponsor, Henson Shaving. I'm not kidding. Since they started sponsoring this pod, I got their razor. I've been using it. I have fallen in love with this thing. The razor they have designed is so great. I'm not kidding. I didn't expect to love it this much, but it feels so good when I'm using it. They've kind of revolutionized the game. No more plastic razors that you're constantly replacing. No more expensive blade cartridges that leave bumps on your skin and nicks and ingrown hairs and all that stuff. With the Henson razor, as long as you don't lose it, you're going to have this razor for the rest of your life. It is designed so well and so sturdy, and all you do is replace the single razor blade that goes into it. This is a much more cost-effective razor, and it's a better shave. I'm not kidding. This isn't just for men, it's for women. Whatever you're whatever your shaving needs are, this razor can do it. I have seriously fallen in love with this razor. They have changed the game, and what I like is they set out to make a great razor, not a great razor business. Do you know what I mean? It's not a subscription. They're not trying to sell you on a lot of stuff. They're just like, hey, we made something great. Have it for the rest of your life and just replace your blades. And they're offering our listeners an amazing deal, which is 100 free blades. Do you hear me? 100. That is going to last you a very long time. So for whatever your shaving needs are, go to hensonshaving.com/growingup and use promo code growingup at checkout for 100 free blades. You have to put the 100 blade pack in your cart with the razor, use promo code growingup, and it'll make those 100 blades free. That is hensonshaving.com/growingup, HENSON shaving.com/growingup. And now, back to our show. Yeah, you helped me, man. Like I knew I had ideas. I just started producing, like making demos at home for like my first time, like really getting in there on Logic. And when I came to you with the vision that I had, I actually didn't know if we would make those demos or start stuff from scratch. I actually was in such a creative place of kind of like oblivion, kind of just like emptiness, asking questions, exploration, discovery. Like I had let go of knowing anything and I was just asking questions. So even when I brought you the demos, I was like, here's what I've done on my own. Here's what I would like the sound to be, kind of using synths and beats and groove like this and kind of these vocal stacks. But I was like, we could start from scratch on 5 different songs. Here's just what I've started with. And you were like, nope, we're going to do that one. And we're going to do that one. And we're going to do that one.
But that detachment is so important. Like that ability to not be too precious about it, because especially like if it's recorded horribly or something and there's like pops and like, you know, like you have to let it go.
For sure.
And then sometimes I get demos where I'm just like, I know this is just not it, you know?
Yeah.
So being open to that's huge. And then again, it's just all about discernment throughout the whole process. Like when do you let things go? When do you kill things? When do you say, no, that's it? When is it done? Which we were talking about a little bit before. Like the huge journey of completion is like, so it's a ceremony in itself.
For real. Guys, if you've never made a song at home, or I guess any creative project, like finishing it and saying like it's complete, like even a paint, I don't paint, but I could imagine it even on a painting. Like when do you decide it's done? And this happens to me every time I'm recording a song. Like recording songs can be so fun and so beautiful and also so uncomfortable because you have to lock something that's creative and has a million options to it. you have to eventually just decide this is done now.
Yeah.
We are done. We are adding no more sounds. We're no longer changing
it's,
anything.
It's never actually done.
Right.
Because it's just a decision. And is that after 2 hours? Sometimes it is. Like,
Right.
and that's where like my role starts to come more into play is like, no, we don't need to add more fucking synths. Like you're not going to hear.
Why not?
Because you're not going to hear anything. It just turns into hodgepodge. The same way if, to use the painting analogy, if you just keep going, it turns to brown, literally. Like
right. Stop adding color.
Yeah, all right.
It's now just brown.
Yeah. There is a threshold of acceptable layering, you know?
Sure.
And that's something that I really try to take as my overall ethos. Like, if it doesn't need more, don't add more because you're just cluttering it. And then, God forbid, like you go start sending things to mixing engineers and all this stuff. You give them 70, 80, 90 files.
Yeah.
And it's all because you want one synth to like blend with another synth the way it is. Like, no, make the first synth right in the first place.
Right.
Don't.
Right.
It's a lot of Band-Aids and a lot of like people trying to get somewhere by just
keep adding. Yeah.
And it turns into this weird Pollock that's more like diarrhea than anything else.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
When did you start with music? Like, when did music start for you?
Like immediately. So my dad's a musician.
Okay.
My mom's a painter.
Okay.
Creative household. Immediately, I started playing drums when I was like 2.5. Like my parents had this tiny little drum set, and there's video of me like
that's
knowing,
precious.
like I'm standing at it because I can't sit, and I'm just like knowing when to switch to the ride because my dad showed me. You know, it was like pretty cute.
That's adorable.
All before 3, and then around like 3 or 4, my neighbor was a piano teacher.
Wow.
So I started taking piano lessons from her.
At
Classical.
At 4.
Mm-hmm. And went through that whole gauntlet, did all the recitals and all that, the Mozart and
just a little cute boy in a suit going ding, 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 ding,
just
ding, 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 ding.
just sweating profusely, performing Beethoven.
You hated it? You were nervous?
No, I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it. Yeah, because it was always like a nice barometer because there'd be other kids like your age and stuff. And you're like, psh.
I'm better than fucking Jerry.
Yeah, dumbass. Still doing
Beethoven
some
shit.
Yeah, get out of here.
Get your fucking PB&J hands out
easy.
of here.
I did that 2.5 years ago, you little bitch. Yeah. So it was always fun for that, and like it always came pretty naturally. Like I didn't practice a ton, but I loved it and I did it. But like kind of bare minimum threshold. You know, like just like oh no, I got it. You know.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't till like 12 or 13, things started to change because that neighbor moved. I fell in love with like punk rock and like anything angsty at all.
For sure.
From like the middle school slow jams that we all, you know.
For sure.
We're like the same age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All the stuff that people liked like at school. I'm like, no, I want to hear stuff that's like anti everything.
Exactly.
I don't know why, but that's what
we all hit.
Yeah.
I was anti in the suburbs of Atlanta, middle school, you know, like anti-government, anti-flag. Wow.
I loved them. They were
anti-flag,
bad religion, anything like anti-establishment. I was all that. And you couldn't play that on piano, let alone classical piano.
Sure couldn't.
So I taught myself guitar, which again, fortunate my dad had instruments around. So but punk rock's like the ultimate thing to just try.
Oh, bar chords.
Finding like all you know is one thing. Okay, but so then the ear really started to kick in. I'm like, all right, so I learned every song that I loved.
Yeah.
Just on my own, just sitting around, just like figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there, it just like, I formed a little band. And then I was still doing piano lessons. My parents found like, it was actually the ex-husband of my original teacher. And he was old and crusty and just like very much like, maybe one day you can play Bergmuller. And I'm like, give it to me now. Like I was ready, man. Like put me in the trenches. And he didn't want to let me do the stuff that I wanted to do. And it was kind of a slog. And his house was like 90 degrees. I grew up in Florida.
Oh.
And he would say weird stuff like, oh, you know, you should watch the Weather Channel. The music's really good on it.
Oh my God.
So like just the disconnect between me with my studded vest and my mohawk and then this old man telling me to watch the Weather Channel.
For music.
I'm like just completely checked out on piano at this point.
You're like
I'm still doing it because I knew I was good at it. I'm like, this is fine. But I'm like, all of my heart and soul went into playing guitar and learning how to be a horrible singer. Prepubescent, you know, just not good. And anyway, from there, for my little band, we won like a bunch of local Battle of the Bands, got some actual studio time from winning one of those Battle of the Bands.
Hell
This
yeah.
is all in Boca Raton, Florida.
Hell yeah.
And that was my first time in like a real studio because I had always made our little demos and stuff too.
Yeah.
With random Tascam, like strange old recording things,
Yep.
you know? I used to actually do cassettes and just layer myself on cassettes.
Jesus.
With my little boombox and like flip the tape.
Yep.
And like, yeah, it was always exploring, having a good time with that.
Amazing.
But then the first
Garage band.
yeah. And once that came along,
that
like
shit was a game changer.
I loved it for sure. But going to a real studio and sitting down and having like an engineer and producer and like we're sitting and trying out amps and I'm going through it. That was like a really fun experience. I think I was like 14 or 15 at that point. And hooked. Like I just want to keep making records, especially because, and this is like the ultimate thing that I see with artists too, like it never sounds the way you think it does. And like I remember getting smacked in the face with that at like 15, like, oh, my voice fucking sucks. This is horrible. Like, oh no, I've been singing in public and I sound like this, like, because it's just different. When you experience yourself through your body and the way it like comes through, even through a PA, it's different than like through a mic. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
So I empathize with people who definitely like think it's something other than it is, you know? And it's just, you got to keep recording to get past that hurdle. And
I had a hard time my first 2 years recording. I hated how I sound. I hated it. And it was so hard to keep going. But the people around me at the time, like luckily were supportive. They're like, no, like the songs are good. Like just keep going.
You just got to keep going.
You're 15. Like keep going.
You shouldn't be good.
I sound like shit.
It's so embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
And then you go back and I hear like guttural noises like that somehow made it on the track. I'm like, nobody told me. But you know, studio time, you got to like pump it out.
Exactly.
And then from there, I actually did find a piano teacher still in Florida who taught me jazz.
Now we're talking.
And I was like, oh, I'm into this. And he was very much like, if I made mistakes, he was just like, oh, that's cool. It was like completely different from the classical, like, wrong. It was like, oh, it's like interesting. Like, I'm like, that's a cool response, you know? Like,
very cool response. And so good for creativity.
So then I started learning all the jazz harmony, all the extensions. And like, that became the thing that I thought I was going to kind of do, was be, if not a jazz piano player, a singer-songwriter or something along those lines. Like those are my two parallel dreams that were happening. Yeah. Because the band died, obviously, because good luck with that when you're in your teens. Yeah.
It's going to fall apart. Every time.
Up in flames. Yeah. So then
one girl in the equation and the band's over.
We had a couple Yokos for sure. And so then I went to college, studied jazz piano, still performed and like did my little gigs and stuff. But then my first like big paying gig was I was a dueling pianist at like 19 years old. So you need to know like
everything.
At least 1,000 songs. Yeah. Because you're just getting requests the whole time. So like,
dude.
And that's where the ear training really, I can just hear something on the radio and I know the whole structure of the piece.
Insane.
I don't have perfect
sense.
pitch.
I was wondering, because I didn't know your whole music journey, but I know how proficient you are on keys, on guitar, on bass. Like, you got it. You proficient.
Plenty of formal training and then a lot of just ears and just like years of like analysis of just music in general. And just being a super fan and like. Yeah. So, but I got caught in the wheel of harmonic, like just music, right? So this is still before I'm like, would ever call myself a producer. I made records, but like it was just instruments. Yeah. And I knew how to play instruments, you know? And any pop songs or dance stuff that felt repetitive to me or too simple, I thought was just trash. So I went from punk rock, which is so simple and angsty, to like, I became an elitist snob, like real quick. Yep. And anything that
I
was
know
like,
your kind.
Yeah. It's a real thing.
There's no sevenths? What? There's no fucking diminished chords or whatever?
Oh, it's just a never-ending 4-bar loop. Now I'm like, please, God, can we do a 4-bar loop?
Sure. Yeah.
But so that I got caught in that for a little bit, and definitely like my own music was fine. Mm-hmm. Nothing crazy. I was not making extremely interesting music, and I wasn't making extremely accessible music. It was like the worst of all worlds. Just that was the stuff I was making under my own name at that point. Still studying jazz and getting gigs and doing the dueling pianos and like So at this point, I'm like an established musician. The university would get calls from local, like any businesses or corporates that wanted entertainment, and the university would literally just forward it to me. I was kind of like the go-to guy because I went to school in Canada at the University of Windsor. So that was like, I was definitely like a big fish in that pond. Like you're supposed to do 2 years of conservatory before you can do jazz. They let me do jazz right away.
Got it.
Which was nice because my other options were like University of Miami and like some of the more prestigious schools. And I would still be an elitist scumbag right now.
Sure,
for sure.
sure.
Yeah. So I got to like do that and get work. So I became just a professional fast. And then I moved to DC where I taught 30 kids a week lessons, like at the height of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Not when I first got there, but that was like my day gig. And then I would gig 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm just working music nonstop, just having fun, just teaching kids stuff, and then going to bars, like mostly Irish pubs, singing covers and drinking whiskey and having a good time.
Not a bad life.
Yeah. And then it was around 2015. I was like, I know I need to move to LA. I just have to, because I had zero musical community in DC.
Yeah.
I was playing, being a professional, making a good living, but nothing inspiring at all. Like I had great friends, don't get me wrong, but they're consultants. They work for the government. They're engineers, not the fun kind, the very dry, boring kind. Yeah. So I just got tired of being surrounded by that. And again, being like the only one who did what I did.
Yeah.
And I'd meet people out and they'd be like, oh, what do you do? I'm a musician. Like, what else do you do?
Yeah.
I'm like, this has to stop. So I moved to LA. Yeah.
I can't answer this anymore.
Moved to LA and I brought my buddy Sean, who formed my first band with me out here, and my other buddy Mike, who's like our stable force, who actually did have a government job, that working remote with a boring, shitty engineer job. And then Elise followed shortly after, who I met in DC. But so Sean and I started our little band, and this is when I first started like actually producing, I think, because Sean has infinite ideas and he's like just an idea man. Technical proficiency, not so much, but just like pure inspiration, pure idea. So it fell on me to like try to figure out what was happening in his brain. And I had never experienced that before because I always made my own stuff. And I was like, all right, I play guitar, I press record, boom, you know? Right. He's like, what if there was a, and then I'm like, oh no. But it was great. Like I learned so much just by trying to like produce him kind of, even though it was our stuff.
I'm glad you had a Sean in your life because I'm very much a Sean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'm like, I know what I want to hear.
Yep.
Do I know how to get to it? Not really.
Yep. And most artists don't. And that's why you need someone else. Yeah. But so that was like me figuring that out. And that was before I even thought to hire somebody else. Cause I always had engineer friends growing up, like who did the mixing stuff for me. And I'm like, okay, if I can just get good takes, I can get somebody else to make it sound good.
For sure.
Did all that. We like toured a little bit. Yeti Tactics is the name of the band.
Yep. Super good, by the way.
Couple albums out. We've done some cool shit.
Yep.
And slowly through that, people started being like, oh, who produced that? And I was like, I think me? Like, I didn't even know what that meant, really. Yeah. Like, I'm much more of like a doer. Like, I wasn't like researching like music production.
How to produce,
like I never like knew like really names beside the massive ones, you know?
Right. You're like, I made the music. They're like, that's producing. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. So then slowly some friends started like asking it to work on some stuff. I'm like, cool. Did some more solo stuff for myself with like some sync labels and, you know, some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like right before the pandemic's when I started like to really get into it more, and I'm doing it actively most days, you know, still for free, but I'm like figuring it out. Yeah. And then pandemic happened, gigs shut down. Because at this point in LA, I was sustaining myself performing 5-6 nights a week.
Yep.
Fancy steakhouses, doing an extension of what I always did, you know, but just
cool covers,
but just a little bit music, more money, a little bit cooler stuff. Yeah. Performing in front of, you know, all the whoever's, the Post Malones and like people coming into Beverly Hills. Like
Sure.
So it was glamorous, but still a slog, like 4 or 5 hours a night, just singing, just tired, drinking, you know?
Yeah.
So pandemic happened and then all that gone.
Yep.
So for me, it was like the best thing that could have actually happened because I got to sit at home and fuck around with the computer more.
Yep.
And slowly started to like appreciate people who like make sounds, and it's not like music and harmony based necessarily. It's more like feeling and texture. And like, I'm starting to like open up to like, okay, there's a lot more to music than just how well I can play an instrument, you know? Yeah. So I'm doing some self-exploration, a couple of friends who were in our little bubble, making their stuff.
Yep.
And then like, it kind of just took off where people started hearing those records started doing really well online. Oh, who did this? Oh, Jordan.
Yeah.
Cool. And then friends of friends, a lot of word of mouth, a lot of all that. And then it became like a full-blown business. And then now I do that most of the time. I still gig, but like 4 times a month instead of 5-6 nights a week, you know?
Yeah.
So, and they're bigger, more fun gigs, and it's still fun. I hang with my homies, we play songs and get people riled up. You know, it doesn't suck.
For sure.
But producing is like the end all. Like I know I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's never boring. It's always fresh and new. And
Yeah.
it's like, as someone who loves like learning, especially, like it's never
endless.
over.
No,
It's
endless. Endless. Music in general, music production for sure. Endless options, learning, techniques, things to try, things to let go of.
Yeah, break it. Like,
yeah.
I got really good at making everything sound great.
Yeah.
So then it's like, what's next? Destroy that.
Right.
What can I do?
How do I fuck this up now?
Yeah, how can I make something more interesting that's maybe a little jarring, makes you feel uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
is not like just pure sonic perfection, you know? And like, because we talked about that a lot, like just essence and trying to get something that comes across that's so much more visceral than just sounding good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of artists, a lot of creatives, I definitely have to work against it. We all do, is this idea of perfection. Like in your head, you're sort of chasing perfection, and that's what gets you moving towards an idea. You have this perfect idea of your life or this creative project you want to do. But that very thing that gets you to like dream about it can really fucking hinder the actual process of it so often. Because the thought is, if it's not perfect, I'm a failure. And like once you're in that binary, you're struggling. You're struggling to create. You don't have freedom anymore. You're getting anxiety around like making choices. I know every artist struggles with this in any form. And you really have to work against it. And you have to let yourself be in that space that your second piano teacher or jazz piano teacher was in, which is like, oh, interesting. You made a mistake. Like, interesting. Let's see if we can work with that or not. But like, let's not throw failure on this. Like, it's creative, it's exploration, it's discovery. We have to stay in that space, not in let's make this perfect. Because also, it doesn't exist. Not in subjective art form. Like, there is no perfect. No. Not in a subjective art form.
What a painful thing to subject yourself to. And it's only you. And I find people do it more so than actually caring about something being perfect and that pursuit as a way of never actually being in the gauntlet of public fucking like disapproval. You know what I mean? Like,
right. You stay in the struggle of going for perfection and holding yourself back rather than actually being vulnerable and saying, hey, here's it.
This is where I'm at.
Yeah.
This is me now. This is the people that I'm able to hire. These are the resources at my disposal.
Yeah, here's where I'm at.
And that's a tough thing to grapple with because we all think we're better than we fucking are.
We all want to be Adele, dude.
And we're not. I'm a screeching fucking weasel sometimes. But yeah, dude, it's so much easier to let it live in the abstract.
Yeah. Yes.
And once it's concrete, it's like, oh, fuck, like everything I thought about, and having great ideas is one amazing part of being about an artist.
Yeah.
Executing's the other part.
Yeah.
What are you capable of executing? I used to write songs for myself that I couldn't sing the fucking note. Why would I write that?
Dude, I do that all the time.
What?
I do that all the time. I'm like, why am I writing this?
I'm the one writing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know your range. Why are you doing this?
Do it all the time.
And so that's just one little tiny microcosm of what can happen in the process where you're this idea versus reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I hear, and it's the most frustrating thing when I hear people who don't have shit out actively criticizing people.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like,
if you're not in the game,
shut the fuck up. Like, it's so frustrating. I'm like, I know you're great. Yeah. Like, you're a talented person, but that doesn't mean your art is going to hold up at all.
Yeah.
And it just irks me when somebody can like criticize someone for putting something out.
Yeah.
And there's a place for it. There's music critics for a reason. Sure. I'm not saying don't ever say what you think about something.
Sure.
But like, are you doing it? Where's that coming from? You know, like.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like look at that as like, you're having a conversation. Let's use like a sports metaphor. You're having a conversation in the stands versus being on the fucking field, and like, cool, have your little conversation in the stands. It does not affect the game. It does not affect the players. You're not actually putting your body on the line.
Pretty much irrelevant.
Yeah, you're relevant. You're not scoring points. You're just a fan in the stands talking shit. I want to be in the game of my life, and I actually have to learn. I've had to learn as an artist, like, to let the people in the stands talk and not actually let it into my game, into my space, into my value. Like, because talk your shit. That's fine. You're not actually, if you're not doing it, then I don't care. Someone who's like another musician who's out there doing it and has ideas and opinions on what I'm doing, cool, I'll listen because like you have some credibility. You're down here with me.
It may help your overall picture for where you get.
Yeah.
You know, but once something's done, like it's also completely valueless too. Like, oh, you know, you really should have done that. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Dude, that happens all the time. I'm like, to some friends sometime, I'm like, I didn't show you my completed song for you to tell me what you think I should change about it. Like, that's useless to me right now,
so
dude.
dumb.
What? But I love this idea of like, the idea versus potential, because this shows up. I love pursuing creative things because they mirror like all aspects of life, no matter what. So I love that. Any lesson I'm learning in my creativity, I can apply it to any aspect of my life. And so for those of you guys listening out there who maybe like don't feel like an artist or a musician or whatever, this idea of potential versus reality, like this is going to show up in our lives. We can have the idea of a perfect relationship, the idea,
literally a conversation, like anything.
Yeah, the idea of the perfect situation at work or whatever it is, like that's how everything starts. It starts in this realm of potential. And in that space, everything is possible. In that space, your perfect person exists and the perfect version of you exists in that potential space. But as we grow, man, that has been my biggest, especially creative journey is, okay, ideas are one thing. How do I actually bring it down into the actual? In every aspect of my life. If I have an ideal version of myself, then I have to actually check my behaviors, my patterns with other people. Am I living up to those ideals that I say I do? Like, are my values, do I actually act out my values? Do I actually act out my principles? Like, what is actually occurring in reality and not just in what I would like it to be.
And then who do you blame when it's not the same thing like that you've envisioned? Yeah. And that's the thing with music. There's really no one else to blame for the most part, you know?
It's pure in that way. I can't blame anyone for my voice not sounding the way I want it to.
Because in like TV and film, there's a million pieces.
I can blame the editor.
So along the way,
writer.
like it's never going to be a pure thing. That's why people connect to music so much.
Yes.
Especially music that is made by like a singular person. Like that's what always connects with me. Like when I see those pop songs that have, you know, 10 writers.
Yeah.
Still great.
5 producers. Yeah.
But it's meant to be mass consumed. Yeah. And it's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to like personally connect to that because there's no real juice there, you know? And it can be perfect. And that might be perfect.
It might be it might technically be perfect.
But devoid of any real essence or like art.
No, it's like when I hear Tame Impala records and it's like he's making this whole thing himself. I'm like, what the actual fuck?
And it's deep, so dude. The impression, like, or how impressive it is one thing. Yeah. But it's more so just that direct expression, right? Yeah. And the way you're able to communicate with someone through the ether and what they're feeling and going through, and like, it's so pure. Yeah. And artists, a lot of times that's why they hire people also, like, to try to get there, but it's also so they can blame somebody else for it not being what they think it should be. Like if you really, really cared about, I don't know, the synths being great in your songs,
go figure it out.
Go fucking buy a synth. Nobody's stopping you from doing any of this stuff. I mean, and I always encourage the artists that I work with. I'm like, dude, go do it. Like, if we work together, great. If we don't, I'm still going to cheer you on and love what you do if it's coming from a pure place and I think you're doing it for the right reasons and you like love what you're doing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, man, I said it at the top, like Good Valley has been some of the most fulfilled I've been creatively ever. And a lot of that has to do with the journey you have taken of getting really good at helping an artist translate the ideas. And granted, I brought you a lot of demos that were like
they sounded great.
Very fleshed out, but like if it was just me needing to take those demos to where they finished with you, I would have lost my shit, dude, because that difference, like I'm able to get a lot of my raw essence and ideas and balance there, but some of the technical shit and just speed of finding sounds and all the shit that you have practiced and gotten really good at, like, no, here, we're doing this we move very quickly together. Yeah. It just, I mean, it was one of the most enjoyable collaborative processes I've ever had because the balance felt so good.
Yeah, making it was so fun. It's just so fun.
I know.
And we're sitting there and like we blocked off like 2.5 weeks for it. And by the end we're just like, let's just listen to it. Yeah. Like we were pretty much just listening to it for a few days.
I know.
Like, going like little tiny like
I know. I think we had like 12 days booked and by day 7 we pretty much had 94% of it done. Like
and again, because it's an investment, like this is the other part that I deal with a lot. People want it to drag on sometimes.
Sure.
People want to know that they're getting the most out of me. And it's a trust thing, right? Where it's like, no, me saying that I love it and it's done isn't because I don't feel like doing any more work.
Right.
It's because I love it and it's done. You know? Just because it was easy doesn't mean that it
wasn't
valuable.
Worth the money. Yeah, exactly.
In fact, people like real pros and people who recognize it and actually have been in a lot of scenarios are like, no, please. Like, I want the easy, fast experience and I want to pay for that, you know?
Yeah, if we can get it done fast and easy and it's where we want it to be and feels the way we want it to feel, then fucking great.
But there's something about the slog that people really like too, because it is, and I know this for myself.
Because
like
art is suffering, Jordan.
Suffering, it's partially suffering, but it's also like you get to like be obsessed with something. It's like this really fun feeling to like live in it. And like,
that's true.
You should do that before you come to me though. And then we can still live in it together, but it's going to be a brief period.
Yeah.
Just a brief romance, if you will.
Yeah.
That is,
thank you.
Is just, it's going to serve its little time.
Yeah.
And we're going to get through it. And if we need more, I will do more. It's not like, there's no, like, I don't have a hard cut on that.
Right.
But it's also like, it's the reason that I don't charge by the day or the reason I don't like, it's just,
it's not hourly.
It's going to just be what it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easy as fuck. I mean, Dylan Dunlap, another artist that I love. Shout out.
Shout out Dylan Dunlap.
Mutual friend also.
He's got to come on. If you guys have not listened to Dylan Dunlap, his music is absolutely beautiful. Just huge fan. I will have him
straight
on the
from
pod
the source. Pure dope. Just
he's bringing you just heart and soul every song.
One of the ones that's doing the best from the collection that we did is one that the decision was live off the floor, him and Kirk, same time, no click, no edits.
Whoa.
It was isolated enough that I could still like
tweak some sounds.
Yeah. Not even just like some little tuning moments on a vocal or something like that. Doing great. That literally took the time it took to record it.
Right.
3.5 minutes.
Wow.
And then like slap a little bit of processing. Okay, it's done. What's that worth? Is that
worth less than a 2 week long?
That's a choice.
Yeah.
That we all made together, me, him, and his other writing partner and co-producer, Kirk.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, no, we should probably do it on the grid so we can do edits. I'm like, no, like this song needs to be just you guys. Like I've seen them do it on stage. I'm like, this is magical.
It's complete. Yeah,
Let's do that. And it didn't change what the label paid me for making that decision.
Right.
I could have spent 10 hours on it.
Right.
But it's the best performing song from the batch that we did.
Wow.
You know, it's like, it's a interesting, there's no right or wrong. And that's what's so hard about it. And that's why trust and like real relationships and like being in it with your people is like the best thing. Cause it's, when you and I do it, it's just like this, everything's shorthand, everything's quick. It's all laughs, all like, and then we get serious when we're like making big decisions.
Yeah.
But like we make it and we move the fuck on, you know?
Yeah, it's just quick shit. I mean, like that inhale on everything. Yeah. Like, I'm like, hey, I'd really love to just hear it. Cause what's the line? Like, inhale part of me. And I'm like, I'd really love right after there just to hear like a, and you're like, let's do it. Yeah. Like breathe into the mic.
Yep.
Yep. We had a lot of that. Just really quick, like, hey, can we add this little thing? And you're like, yep, here we go. Psh, moving on.
And that's something that I run into a lot where people do have severe ADHD and I'm doing something and it's, can we do that there? And I'm like, I can't, literally. Like I'm tuning your vocal or whatever it is. It's just like,
let me get through what I'm doing. Yeah.
And that's where the artist like who lacks experience starts to show. It's like, no, keep those, there's nothing wrong about your thought.
Yeah.
me ignoring you is not because your thought was bad.
It's because your
timing's bad. Just wait. Let's chat. Remember it. There's always a natural thing. And I'm hearing what you're hearing also.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. We're like, all right, I'll be doing one thing. All right, now to do this. And they're like, I was just about to tell you to do that. I'm like, yeah, because we're listening to the same fucking thing. Like,
exactly.
We're doing this together. And again, that doesn't mean like, don't speak, let me do my thing by any means.
Right.
It's just like,
no, timing.
Yeah, just little discernment,
Listen
a little
to the space. Yeah.
You know, and because that ruins the flow too, where they start to get really self-conscious now because it's like, oh, Jordan thinks I'm a dumbass. It's like, I do, but
but don't get self-conscious.
Yeah, like it's fine. I'm a dumbass too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, getting out of my own way as an artist has been a huge thing, but I'm coming to you at a time in my life where like I have no noise about anyone making me feel any type of way about what I'm doing, honestly. It's like, if I'm insecure, it's because it's something I'm dealing with me, and I know I'm dealing with it with me. I would never put it on anyone else. So yeah, I think we like came together at the right time. You in your life, your skills, me and mine.
Well, you even said that you were waiting. You were like, you know, you knew you wanted to, but you're like, something had to line up, and it's really cool, especially with like friends and people that I've known.
Yeah.
Where I know we could make something great, but like, I'm also improving every single day.
Right.
So the longer that... But until we work, it's like, you're going to get a lot more juice out of me as well. Yeah, because
we had mutual friends for a long time. And you had thrown out like occasionally just that like, yo, let's do something. Yeah. Like, yo, let's work. Just that general like interest of like, hey, we should, you know, we all create. Let's do something sometime. And I had kind of known, it was like in the back of my head. And then it was this project. Can I have you leave us with, well, maybe not leave us, but I want to ask you a broader question at the end here, which is, what have been your keys to growing up, Jordan?
My keys to growing up.
Yeah.
For me, it's about zooming out of yourself. Like, this is not music related. This is just life. Being able to survey yourself and not be in your immediate world all the time. Having some introspection, stepping back, like laying in bed at night, feeling like a piece of shit is like a very important thing. You know, like if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And taking a good hard look at yourself and like just being honest with where you're at, being okay with not being where you think you should be, and continuing to just strive and just like talk to more people, have interesting conversations, do the research. And now I do more research. I used to not do research. I was more of an action guy, but which got me to where I am. Like, if you have to choose between, this is something else, like input versus output. Like, how much are you trying to take in before you start to actually put something out into the world and like represent yourself? And it's a constant balance, because if you just are always output, there's no growth there at all. If you're always input, then you're not working things out in real time. You're not figuring out who you are on a deeper level at all. You're just kind of just mentally masturbating over and over and over again. So it's that combination of action, input, and just finding your sweet spot on what that means for you, and like just moving on is like a huge thing. Like, I don't live in the past at all. Like, I know I do fucked up things sometimes. I forgive myself. I do my best to just know that I'm going to be better now. My next work is going to be better. My next idea is going to be better. I don't cling to the shit from the past. And I think that's the biggest key for me, like becoming a functional adult who doesn't like deal with anxiety or depression or like all these things. And it's partially, I'm just lucky. Like, I acknowledge that, like, definitely have some decent chemistry going on.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of tools that I picked up along the way to like let go of shit.
Yeah.
And just not revel in my own misery, and be okay with being happy, be okay with being angry, but like just moving on, you know? And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've gotten, and especially through making art, because you have to. So it's like, I get to practice this every single day, which has made me that much better of a human being along the way. And so for that, I'm super fucking grateful too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And doing it with my brothers.
That's
and my
right,
people.
man. Do it with good people. Yep. That's real. Your community of musicians around you are just fucking beautiful people, man. Everyone I meet in our friend group and in your wider friend group that I'm learning more about now, like, everyone's lovely. Damn. And that's key too. Choosing great people to be around. I'm super, super fortunate. And just surround yourself with like-minded people. Don't criticize other people for
putting their heart on the line. Like, find the good in anything that people do. You can have opinions, you can be negative, but cheer people on, want people to do their best,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't involve you, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
cheer for everyone, find yourself, get rid of competition, all that nonsense. Like, just stay on your path, do what you do. Everyone finds each other in this weird, natural way. Sometimes it's online, but mostly it's just literally like friends of friends. It's insane. And then before you know it, you're making an album and you've just spent the better part of a month having the best time of your life. And I'm just so grateful, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same, man. Beautiful. If you had to pick one song from the EP for us to play as we end this episode, what would it be?
I kind of want to get my house on.
You want to get your house on? All right. We're going to play the song that we made. This was the one that had the least done on
we actually did kind of co-write this one.
Yeah, this one was co-written. It's out now. It's doing very well. And honestly, dude, this was a dream for me to make because this is a house track. I love house music. I love melodic house, like Rufus Du Sol, Lane 8, Monolink, all this stuff. It's a music that like is deep in my soul, and I've never made a house track before this. And so this was fulfilling some part of my spirit, man. So listeners, we're gonna play you out with my song "Touching" from the Good Valley Brief Romance EP. Jordan, thank you so much for being here, man, and just being you. I can't wait to make new shit. Like I can't wait. I'm already spinning on a lot of ideas, and I'm starting to get in there and demoing. So I can't wait to make more.
Hell yeah.
We already have a track that's gonna come out in January that people aren't ready for. It's fire. Yeah. Where can people find you?
Instagram, I am Jordan Sherman. Also Spotify, I got a whole playlist of stuff out, including Good Valley.
Yeah, Good
many,
Valley,
many others, but
Sam DeRosa,
Dylan Dunlap, Van Buren. The list is massive.
Oh yeah, Van Buren's an amazing project. Jordan's been working on. That guy's so good. Yeti Tactics. Jordan Sherman.
Matty Ringe.
Project. Right?
I'm gonna miss a bunch of people. I'm sorry, but it's literally 9 hours of music. So
it's insane. Check out Jordan Sherman and all his delicious music, and check out Good Valley wherever you Yeah, baby. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, growers. Check out the songs. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Just keep doing your best. I love you.